Welcome back to the 2-Minute Warning. Today, I'm looking at the Cincinnati Bengals and determining whether or not I think they can make the playoffs in the upcoming 2021 NFL season. But before getting to that topic, question for those of you viewing, especially the Bengals fans out there. Comment down below whether or not you think this Bengals team can win the division. The video is just about the playoffs in general, but can they actually go out there and win the division? Comment down below. But getting into this topic, looking at the Bengals, overall, this past year was relatively disappointing, obviously, with Joe Burrow going down, losing a couple players in free agency, such as Carl Lawson and William Jackson, Geno Atkins, Carlos Dunlap was just traded a little bit ago. Team isn't happy with last year, probably, but it put them in a good position when it came to the draft for the following year and free agency as well. Looking at their overall team, in order for this Bengals team to ball out, or to make the playoffs, Joe Burrow is going to have to absolutely ball out. He's going to have to be almost like an MVP candidate. I like this team overall. I mean, their wide receiver room is one of the best in the NFL, in my opinion, between Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Auden Tate. And what I like best about that room is the youth that comes with it. There's some good wide receiver cores out there, but they're not as young and don't have as much depth as the Bengals do. So I like that room a lot. Offensive line is decently getting there. I mean, this year they're going to have Jonah Williams, they're going to have Riley Rife, they got Trey Hopkins at center. They're going to have a better offensive line than they did last year that put Joe Burrow in that awful position to get their injury. They also address the offensive line a little bit in the NFL draft in the later rounds, getting Jackson Carman and Deontay Smith, definitely providing some depth on that offensive line, possibly for the future years when Riley Rife moves on. So looking at the offense, it's pretty good in the receiving core, in the offensive line. In the quarterback, Joe Burrow's top 12 if he comes back, and is it the same guy and the injury didn't really affect him? Big question mark is in the backfield on Joe Mixon. I like Joe Mixon a lot, and he's probably, at this point in time, he's almost underrated, but there's good reasoning behind it because of how injured he gets. I like Joe Mixon a lot. I think he has raw skill and talent that can really help out this team, but he's never around and he's never healthy to do so. But hopefully now, with a healthy start and a better offensive line to guide him, I think Joe Mixon is going to elevate his game. Looking at the defense, I am not a big fan of replacing Trey Hendrickson with Carl Lawson. I think Carl Lawson's on the come up. Trey Hendrickson, he was last year tied with the most sacks in the NFL at 13.5 with Aaron Donald, and that is extremely notable. And I'm not saying Trey Hendrickson is a bad player by any means, but I think when you're on a top 3 roster or top 5 roster with the New Orleans Saints last year, with other guys like Cameron Jordan and a stacked defense that's got Marshawn Lattimore, Janoris Jenkins, and just a stacked roster all around, you're going to benefit from that, and that's going to result in higher sack numbers when other guys on your team are getting double teamed. Now, though, you're on the Bengals and you're going to be the guy that's getting double teamed. I'm not sure it's going to pan out very well, but I still got faith in him. I still think it's a better pickup than not picking up anyone at all for that pass rush, and I do think he'll get the job well done. Looking at the secondary, you signed Mike Hilton, you got Trey Waynes, you got Von Bell and Jesse Bates, 2 pretty solid safeties. Jesse Bates definitely on the come up for sure. I'm not huge on losing William Jackson, but I guess you tried to replace him. And looking at this Bengals team, I mean, the secondary is solid, the pass rush is getting there, offensive line's getting there, backfield's getting there, receiving core is pretty locked down. Joe Burrow, the biggest thing that's going to hold the Bengals back is really not themselves. It's A, going to be injuries, and B, how tough their schedule is. Being in the AFC North, that's arguably the toughest or second to toughest division in football. Baker Mayfield and the Browns have a top 5, top 3 roster in the NFL, from offense to defense to coaching staff, all around. They are a stacked roster. Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, they do have a couple of holes here and there, especially in the receiving core. They did address it a little bit in the NFL draft, but I still think they got some holes on that team. But we know how electric their run game is with Lamar Jackson, with Gus Edwards, with J.K. Dobbins, and I'm not sure the Bengals are ready to take on that yet. And the Steelers, well, I think they're dropping off a large amount this year. Big Ben, he's just playing past what he should, and you don't have the greatest team with your receiving core. You have talent there with, Juju Smith and Chase Claypool, but there's no star number 1 guy that's going to carry the load on this team and help carry Big Ben. There's depth in that receiving core, but I'm definitely taking that Bengals receiving core over the Steelers 100%. I'm taking Joe Burrow over Big Ben at this point in his career, and I like Najee Harris out of Alabama for the Steelers, but still going to be a rookie. I don't know what he's going to turn out to be. losing a Pouncey brother, not only he's getting up there, he got up there in age as well, but that is a lot of leadership and mentorship that the Steelers lost on that offensive line. Defense, that's still going to be tough, and that's going to be the biggest reason the Steelers are still relevant, because their defense is still going to be so good. Having Cameron Hayward, TJ Watt, guys, people think he got gypped of Defensive Player of the Year, so we know he's a top 3 defender in the NFL 100%. Secondary is pretty good with Minkah Fitzpatrick and Joe Hayden. Like I said, that Steelers defense is still top 8 in the NFL, and it's getting Devin Bush as well. They did lose Bud Dupree and Steven Nelson, but still, it's competitive, and it's going to keep the Steelers in contention in some close games. So the Bengals it's gonna be hard to make a playoff push. Just being in that division with the Browns, with the Ravens, and with the Steelers. While I got the Steelers dropping off, it's still not going to be an easy win for the Bengals by any means. You also play the AFC North, and assuming Aaron Rodgers is back with the Packers, that's a tough division now with Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, and the Vikings. They're going to be getting their defense back with Eric Kendricks, Anthony Barr, Harrison Smith, adding Patrick Peterson, Daniel Hunter, Dalvin Tomlinson. That's a tough defense. Chicago Bears, Justin Fields, if he can turn things around in Chicago, that's going to be tough. Not too worried about the Lions. They had a pretty good draft, but I'm taking the quarterback matchup. Joe Burrow is going to beat Jared Goff 9 out of 10 times. It's just, like I said, this Bengals team, I think it is a good roster, but I think they're 1 to 2 years away. Once Big Ben's officially gone, maybe when Joe Burrow's officially developed more and 100% past the injury and has some more reps in the NFL, I think they're 1 to 2 years away from the playoffs just because of how tight that division is. And you're asking for a team that, according to this past year, had a good amount of injuries to be completely healthy, and I'm just not sure that is going to happen in 2021. If they make the playoffs or push for the playoffs, I won't be surprised because the talent and raw skill is there, but they just have a couple issues. Like I said, maybe injuries, maybe the strength of schedule, and of course, coaching staff as well. I've yet to mention Zach Taylor. I don't want to say he's on the hot seat, but he's definitely being questioned on whether or not he is the guy for the Cincinnati Bengals. So if he's not the guy, and the Bengals have to now go out and get a brand new head coach, long term, that might be the right answer, but it's going to hold them back temporarily, having Zach Taylor mislead them. I don't want to say mislead, but not have them reach their full potential. But on paper, I do like this Bengals roster with Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow connection with T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Auden Tate, Joe Mixon in the backfield, a emerging offensive line. I don't want to say emerging, but an offensive line that's getting there, a defense that has talent in certain places. Mike Hilton, Trey Waynes, Von Bell, Jesse Bates, Trey Hendrickson. There's speckles of talent on that defense. I like this Bengals team overall, but can they make the playoffs? Can 100% yes. Will they though? I'd probably have to hold them back just 1 to 2 years, but again, Joe Burrow absolutely balls out like the Bengals would need him to in order to fight for the playoffs. I would not be surprised. I think he has his talent, and the Bengals might be able to get it together. But just not knowing how injuries will go, not knowing how Zach Taylor will go in the tough schedule, I'm going to hold them back for this year. But I definitely think we're going to see a lot of improvement from those Bengals teams, going from 4 wins to possibly 8, 9, or 10 wins. The playoffs, I have them just falling short. They get there, not surprised, but not this year for me. As always, guys, comment down below your thoughts. Do you think this Bengals team will push for the playoffs? And if so, do you think they could, make a deep playoff run? Can they win a playoff game, or will they just get there and get bounced? Or do you think they will miss it in general? Of course, comment your thoughts below. We still don't know how Joe Burrow will be after the injury. Assume he'll be fine, but that's an extra question mark as well. And as always, again, thank you for watching, guys. 2-minute warning.